Hi guys, it's me again, the Bipolar Hot Mess, and here we are on the sixth video of the DBT series based off of the book DBT Made Simple. Again, it's a book that's written for therapists, and it's basically just a guide on and an introduction for the therapists to DBT therapy. So if they are looking to introduce it into their therapy practice, there's not a lot of DBT therapists out there. So this kind of gives them a little bit of a general overview. I was sent this book by a publisher to read and review, and my doctor also suggests that I should try out using mindfulness as part of my own therapy. And so I decided to do these videos to kind of document my progress with this, as well as I have someone else that I'm working with. I'm kind of playing the therapist. I'm not a doctor, and I know I sound like a broken machine because I say this on every video, but for legal reasons, I have to let you guys know that I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist. I'm not licensed to practice medicine. In no way am I using this to practice medicine. This is kind of just a guide, and I'm using these exercises since it's trying to tell a therapist how to teach their clients to do how to use mindfulness and how to learn mindfulness. I'm using their instructions and trying to help teach one of my friends how to use these mindfulness exercises to see how, it says DBT Made Simple, so I'm trying to see how simple this really is. And if you guys, since there's not much known out there about DBT, I thought you guys might want to learn some information about it as well. And so if you guys pick up a few of these exercises and maybe they'll be helpful to you too as well. But I am in no way practicing medicine. I do not, or in any way, shape, or form, encourage you to go against anything that your doctor has instructed you to do as part of your therapy. Please continue following all of your doctor's orders. Continue taking all of your medication as directed. This is just purely informational in nature. So, that being said, mindfulness. Are you guys ready? Because this is the video where you learn the actual exercises. I know I've been promising for so long, but you guys really are going to learn some exercises in this one. So let's first refresh from the last video and go over the definition of mindfulness. Mindfulness is doing one thing at a time, being in the present moment with your full attention and with acceptance. So you're only focusing on one thing right at that time. Your entire attention is to that. And with what they mean with when they say with acceptance, it means that you allow yourself to be okay with whatever it is that you're feeling or whatever action is taking place. You're okay. You allow yourself to be okay with it, and you don't judge yourself for it. So with that in mind, let's go over a little bit on how to practice mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness is broken down into 4 different steps. The first step is choosing your activity. Now, there's there's unlimited amounts of ways to practice mindfulness. So when you're picking the activity that you're going to do, pick something that fits you and your lifestyle, something that can be easily incorporated into your life. Because if you're trying to do an exercise that you normally wouldn't ever do in your lifetime, or something that you physically cannot do, your efforts to try to practice mindfulness are just kind of fruitless at that point, because you're not going to be successful at it, because it's not something that is fitting to you. It's not practical. Or if you physically can't do it, then you're setting yourself up for failure right there. So pick something that fits your needs and can be worked into your either daily routine or something that works for you. That's the first step. Then the second step is to focus on the activity. As part of the definition, you have to be in the present moment and focusing on that moment. So whatever activity you choose, make sure that you're rid of all distractions. Your cell phone, your computer, put the phone on silent, close the laptop, go in another room if you have to, just whatever you have to do to get rid of any of the obvious distractions. If you have children and your children are watching TV, go into another room where the TV isn't, so that, obviously the TV isn't going while you're doing this. Try to, get as many of the obvious distractions that are around away from you so that you can begin your focus, as focused as possible. So then the third, you're going to focus on the activity that you've chosen. And that's the second step, is thinking only about that activity. The third step is once you've begun your focus on that activity, the third step is noticing when your mind wanders from that. Or your attention wanders. So if, say, you're doing deep breathing, like say breathing is the activity that you chose, and you're supposed to be focusing on, say, you're counting, and all of a sudden your mind starts to wander off to, I wonder what I'm going to wear tomorrow, or, what time do I have to wake up? Right then and there, you need to stop and you need to take notice that your mind and your attention has wandered from the activity you were doing, and now you need to bring it back to the activity. There's a worksheet that I have that I'll post up, and I know I haven't posted up any of the worksheets yet. I'm sorry, I have not had a chance to get to my scanner, and right now I'm experiencing a power outage in this facility, so I'm running off of battery power on my laptop, so the scanner is not working. But there's a mindfulness tracking sheet, and so what you're going to do with the mindfulness tracking sheet is you're going to mark down the activity that you did, and it has a spot for the date, what you did mindfully, which is the activity, the length of practice, which is how long you did the entire activity for. That's from beginning to end, not once you notice your mind wander, because the next section is what I noticed about my experience. And in that section is where you're going to note about probably, how long you had been doing the exercise until your mind wandered. So you might want to note that down, and then note down what it wandered to. By keeping track of those types of things, you'll notice when, as you're going on and on, as the days and weeks go on and you're practicing mindfulness, when you're looking at these tracking sheets, you'll be able to see how long you can go before your mind starts to wander. So are you improving? Are things improving? And as, after a couple of days, you'll start to look at the things that your mind is wandering to. And is there something about, the specific thing that your mind is wandering to? Is that an issue that maybe you need to address with a therapist or with a friend, or something like that? But you'll be able to notice some patterns and maybe some things that are really, that you need to address, and you may not have realized it otherwise. But by documenting it on the sheet, it'll help you track your progress on if, the amount of time that you're able to practice an exercise mindfully, if that increases. If not, maybe you want to try a different activity. Maybe this activity isn't quite a good fit for you. Try a different activity. I'm going to give you a couple different exercises. There's actually 3 of them that I'm going to give you today. So if the one doesn't work for you, then try the second one or the third one, and maybe you'll achieve better results. If not, remember, it takes practice. If your mind is wandering, it's okay for your mind to wander. Everybody's mind wanders at some point. What you're trying to do is you're trying to increase the amount of time that you're thinking mindfully before it starts to wander. That's the key component right there, is how long you were doing the activity before you wandered. But it's okay to wander. It happens. It happens to everybody. So, you just want to be able to do it for as long as you can, because the longer that you can engage in an activity, the better your focus is. Which brings you to the fourth step, which is once you've wandered and then you've taken note, the fourth step is bringing yourself back to that moment, to the time or to the activity that you're working on. At first, when you start doing these exercises, you're going to probably, your attention is going to go all over the place. Your mind's going to be everywhere. It's going to be hard to kind of zone in and focus on an activity, especially if you haven't done something like this before. This is something that's brand new to you. Your mind isn't used to doing something like this. So it's going to take some time and some work, and you just have to keep going, not get frustrated, know that it's okay for your mind to wander. And like we said, part of the definition of mindfulness is being in that moment and with acceptance. So you need to accept that what you're feeling in that moment, that it's okay. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to do that. Then go back. Just go back to, where you were before and start again. And, and as you're keeping track on the sheet, as the days, weeks, months go by, you should notice some improvement on how long, it is before you wander. But at first it may be very hard to stay in that present moment, and you may have to, you may wander a ton, and it's okay. But you just keep doing steps 3 and 4, over and over again, and for however long a period of time you set out for yourself. So, you set the time frame yourself. If you're doing these exercises yourself, or, if you're working with your therapist will probably say, like, okay, do an exercise, try by starting out with 5 minutes. Set a time, a time limit, or a time goal, actually, I should say, not a limit, but a goal for yourself for the first time you do the exercise. Say, I'm going to try doing this for 2 minutes, and then see what happens. And then maybe you can extend that the next time to 3 minutes. Maybe 2 minutes was really a very short period of time for you, and you were able to do that no problem. Then go to 3 minutes, and try to increase your time so that, you're learning to focus for longer periods of time. But when you start doing these exercises, set a time, a time goal to work with. And so even if your mind wanders before your time goal is over, you just keep repeating steps 3 and 4 until the time goal is complete. So just keep, mind wanders, bring it back. Mind wanders, bring it back. But always make sure that you're noting on the sheet. You don't have to note it at that very second to completely interrupt everything, but maybe a tick mark, or mark down the time, or something like that. Just a little note, and then after the exercise you can go back and fill in like what your mind wandered to. But you just want to be able to go back, then have a good record, so then you can keep going back to it and refer to it. Let's see. If you're not in the present moment, you're going to notice, you notice when your attention has wandered, obviously, because you're not in that present moment anymore. So basically, the main part of mindfulness is knowing when it wanders to bring it back. So you have to focus as much as you can, because the main goal of mindfulness is being to identify when it's wandering, so that you can identify when it is you have to bring it back. So keep that in mind when you're doing the exercises, that you're staying in the moment and completely focusing, so that when you wander, the mindfulness is knowing that it's wandering to bring it back. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does somewhat. There's 2 types of mindfulness, and I think I mentioned this in the last video as well, the informal and the formal. Informal mindfulness is when you're bringing mindfulness to whatever activity it is that you're doing, like if you're watching this video, for example, or if you're riding a bike, or whatever you're doing something, but you're trying to do it mindfully. You're bringing you're trying to do deep breathing or something while you're riding your bike. That's informal. Formal mindfulness is when you actually set aside a time to do the practice or the breathing exercise or the exercise. It doesn't have to be a breathing exercise. A lot of them tend to be breathing exercises, and whatever exercise it is that you're doing, it is formal mindfulness is when you've actually set aside a certain time to do it. Like you schedule it in your schedule, like at 7 p.m. every night. That's when I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do my mindfulness. I'm going to do it for 10 minutes or whatever. But that's formal mindfulness because you're actually setting aside a time and scheduling it in there to do the actual mindfulness activity. So remember, when you're doing mindfulness, it's about doing one thing at a time. So if you're practicing mindfulness, you can't be doing a breathing exercise while you're driving because that's two things. So I mean, if you're doing that, it's more of an informal exercise. It's not a formal exercise because you're not completely focused in on that one, on the breathing exercise, because you've got to make sure that, you know, if you're stuck at a red light, you got to make sure if the light turns green that you're ready to go. I mean, so you can't. How can you be focused in that moment if you're in the back of your head trying to watch for the stoplight? It's just not possible. So, the book suggests that the best way to learn the formal exercises is to start off with short, simple exercises and then work up to the harder ones, which, you know, makes sense. I mean, with everything, you usually want to start with the easy and then work yourself up to the hard once you learn it and once you're more versed with it. So, so the other variable, again, is the amount of time that you spend on the exercises. So start off with short periods of time, set off, small amounts, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and then gradually increase the amount of time. And, oh, it appears that the power has come back. Yay! Anyway, a lot of people don't set aside time for formal mindfulness sessions, and they try to do their mindfulness through informal mindfulness, and it's not always effective when they're trying to achieve their goals. I mean, both types of practices are equally important, and they serve different functions. Informal exercises help you guys live your lives more mindfully and help you be in the present moment on a more regular basis, which, like we learned in the last video, if we're in the moment on a regular basis, I mean, we experience the moments more because we're fully there. We don't have all the other things going on in our head, or we're not thinking about them. We're focused completely on what's going on, so we're there feeling more, and then we also remember them better because our full attention is there, and so we have a better memory of them. So informal exercises help us with that, but formal exercises help us become more aware of our internal experiences, like increasing our self-awareness and things like that, because we're sitting there and completely focused in on an activity, and the main goal is to notice when our mind starts to wander so we can bring it back. So by doing that, we're trying to help increase our self-awareness because we're trying to increase what's going on in our own heads and focus our concentration. So that said, I hope that all made sense, because now I'm about to start with the exercises. Are you guys so excited? I know. I have a lot of people who are really excited actually about these exercises. So, okay, the first one that I'm going to teach you guys is counting your breaths. And what you want to do is you're going to set aside a certain amount of time. Like, let's set aside 5 minutes, okay? I'm not going to set aside 5 minutes in this video for it. I'm just going to show you the exercise. You guys can do these exercises on your own. I'm just going to, show you the exercise and tell you them, and then you guys can practice them. But the first one, the counting breaths. So say you set aside 5 minutes. What you're going to do is you're going to count when you're going to count 1 when you breathe in, and then you're going to make sure you get a deep breath, and then when you exhale, you count 2, and then 3 on the inhalation, and then 4 when you exhale. And you do that until you hit 10, then you start back over at 1. So you would do, when you inhale, you would inhale deep and say 1. And then as you exhale, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And you keep doing that up until 10. And then when you reach 10, start back at number 1 and keep doing that. And then you're going to keep on doing that, and you're going to be focusing on the number that you're saying. And so once you start noticing that your mind is wandering from that number, like from the number counting, and that your mind is, starting to focus on other things, that's when you mark it down on your tracking sheet, and you bring yourself back to your breathing and where you've stopped counting, and then just accept, okay, my mind wandered, but I can come back, and bring yourself back and, continue right back into where you were going, and do that for, say, 5 minutes, and see how many times you wandered. And then as time goes on, hope maybe you can increase, the amount of time that you spend in that, maybe 10 minutes, or you can hopefully decrease the amount of times your mind wanders. But that's the first exercise. The second exercise is observing sounds. And this one, you're basically just going to sit quietly, and you're going to kind of focus your attention on any sounds that you hear around you. Do you hear sounds coming from the vents? Do you hear a TV going in the next room? Or, do you hear, I don't know, like the noise of the cars outside your window as they're driving down the street, people talking in the next room, whatever it is, you're going to focus on those sounds, and just keep yourself completely focused and engaged in those sounds. And then as soon as you start noticing that your mind starts wandering to different thoughts or things like that, mark that down on your sheet and bring yourself back. And do that start off at like 5 minutes, then, increase as it gets easier for you. But that's one, you don't need to do any breathing for that. That one, you're just kind of just sitting there and just listening. So your main focus is on those little background noises that you're hearing. So as soon as you stop noticing the background noises and start focusing on something else, that's when it's time to bring yourself back. The third one, observing an object. Pick up an object, any object, a remote control, a picture, some knick-knack that's somewhere, and what you want to do is, with all of your senses, just examine whatever it is that you're holding in your hand, and you want to experience the sensation of what it feels like to touch it, any smells, does it, make any sound as it's in your hands, is it cold, is it hot, like what does it feel like, and just keep focusing on whatever object is in your hand, and do that for as long as you can. And when you notice your mind is no longer on the specific object that's in your hand and your senses, then mark that down and then bring yourself back to that object. If maybe that object isn't working, maybe you could try the exercise again using a different object. Many different variables or any variations of these exercises, longer time frames, shorter time frames, whatever it is. But, eventually you're going to want to work up to, a longer time frame without as many interruptions where you're drifting away and you have to bring yourself back. But for the amount of time that you are doing the exercise, or the amount of time that you've set aside for that exercise, you just keep repeating steps 3 and 4 over again, where you're focusing on You're focusing on the exercise or the activity, and then as soon as you start to notice that your mind wanders, you bring it right back, and then, and you mark down on your sheet that it wandered, either at what time it wandered or what it wandered to and whatnot, and then continue the exercise again until the time period is over, and just keep continuing it. Over time, like I said, it'll get easier. At first, it's going to be really hard. You're going to notice your mind wandering a lot, but those are just the first 3 exercises. Those are, the easiest ones that I saw in the book. So start it with those, and try those out a little bit and see if one of them works better than the others for you. So I'm going to let you guys try those exercises out. The next video I'm going to do is going to discuss the most common problems that are reported to the therapist about why they're unable to, or they find it difficult to practice mindfulness. Before I let you hear the problems that people are bringing up, I want you guys to try the exercises first, and then find out for yourself what types of problems you guys might be having with them. And hopefully you guys can report, either send me a message or comment on the video or whatnot, but let me know what if any problems you have, or your most common problems when you're trying to practice these exercises, and we'll see how they compare to what the book says, and what the most common problems that were reported to them. So, but I want you guys to try the exercises first yourselves, because if I tell you ahead of time what the problems are, you're gonna already, your mind's gonna be tainted. So I'm not gonna tell you what they are until the next video. So if you have any questions or comments or anything, bipolarhotmess@gmail.com or www.bipolarhotmess.com, or you can put it at the end of this video on YouTube or on the Facebook page, and just let me know, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.